All right. Welcome back to another episode of Who Saved Over My Podcast. I'm your host, Neil Strebig. With me, of course, is Donald Double D DeCray. So this episode, I don't know, I'm excited. Talking about a little bit about Mass Effect, Legendary Edition, and do a nice little deep dive into how amazing the Mass Effect universe is. Definitely a game I know you and I probably have spent probably a month's worth of time playing each.
Of actual time of my life, hours invested. Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And I think this will also be a little bit different for us because in a lot of ways, I think we actually agree. It feels like the podcast has been developing a lot in towards sort of almost a debate show where we disagree on topics. But when it comes to
just
Mass
don't
Effect,
respect you. So,
and you're just wrong. But
True.
when it comes to Mass Effect, we actually both agree on the awesomeness of the title, the franchise, and our love of it. Although we may disagree on some of the decisions that we made.
Very true. Very true. But of course, starting things off, nice little news round, good old spectator mode. So start us off, Double D. What we got?
So starting off, Marvel's released sort of their upcoming plan for their next big story arc here. Obviously beginning with WandaVision, which has now concluded at the time of recording. So we're looking at Falcon, Winter Soldier, Black Widow, Loki, Shang-Chi, on and on and on. It's an incredible lineup. I'm excited for the characters we're seeing. Eternals making an appearance, She-Hulk making an appearance on that list. And Deadpool 3, which you told me to give you the credit, is going to be the only confirmed R movie on this project, that they've got movies slated out till 2022 and 2023 and beyond. Like, it's insane how much they're looking to accomplish.
And we talked about this off the air before. I think it's kind of cool that they have something each week because Disney Plus, Hulu, pretty much all the subscription services, HBO Max, experiencing something newspapers have dealt with for ages, churn. Somebody's basically paying for the month's subscription or coming in on a promotion, and then they're leaving once they watch their show. So I think having new content, especially series like WandaVision, new episode each week, keeps everybody kind of hooked. And then if you like WandaVision, you're probably going to want to watch Winter Soldier and Falcon. You're going to want to watch Loki. And of course, and then HBO Max is doing a great job with it, with all the Warner Brothers premieres. I think pretty much everybody's keeping HBO Max just because it's like, yeah, I can see a brand new movie this week if I have HBO Max. Same thing with everything Marvel coming out with.
I mean, so beyond their sort of like overall roadmap going out literally years, what you're alluding to is that Disney Plus is releasing some new Marvel content every week this year. Starting with WandaVision, there will be the making of WandaVision coming up when that finishes, and then right into Falcon and Winter Soldier, on and on. And so either a movie or episodes coming out, and I despise it. I'm gonna be honest. I hate this like watch it our way baloney of like you got a week that you got to sit on between. I literally did not watch any of WandaVision until today because last night was when the final episode came out. Binged the whole thing. Just sat down and just was like, bish boom ba, done. I hate this model that they're forcing us to consume the way they want us to consume, but like you said, from a business standpoint, I absolutely get it. Moving on to the next thing, announcement of a new Pokemon game coming out. The date of this recording actually is the 10-year anniversary for the release of the Pokemon Black and White games in North America, so maybe you can figure out when we recorded this, because I have no idea when we're releasing this. But Pokemon Legends Arceus is looking to incorporate more of this like sort of action RPG elements and overworld and moving around, and it's definitely, I think, drawing on inspiration and the success of Breath of the Wild in terms of its look and its feel, and I think that's probably a good thing.
No, honestly, I haven't played a Pokemon game since X and Y. I played the demo for Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu, and I mean, which is basically just a remake of Red and Blue. And Red and Blue still, I mean, holds a special place in my heart for it. But I think with any Pokemon game, you play them because it's, you know, a bit of comfort zone, a bit of nostalgia, but you don't really get that open world feel. So with that, it's like, okay, yeah, now I can finally just go somewhere. I can stumble upon a legendary Pokemon. I can stumble upon an area to where it's like, yeah, I don't have anybody to battle with. I don't have the right Pokeballs for this. It just creates that element of curiosity and world building that, honestly, it's kind of surprised it's taken Pokemon this long to do that.
You know, and I think what for me personally, as someone who's played several of the games over generations and looking back on them now, sort of with a modern mentality of what I consider interesting gameplay, right? Because I'm sure we'll get into this when we talk Mass Effect too. Nostalgia, looking back at the way those games played, seemed great at the time. These days probably wouldn't hold up to snuff if I went back to play one, for example. Same thing with Pokemon. the franchise itself really, I don't think, has innovated much on its gameplay. It's been a very similar, like, here's some new Pokemon, right? Like some new abilities, but the core gameplay, the core sort of feedback loop and the mechanics haven't really changed. And so I'm hoping that this is going to see some big changes in the franchise to sort of freshen it up for what I would call modern sensibilities in terms of what we expect from a game.
And then moving on, as you mentioned, bit after the fact, but BlizzCon came out, and when February, we're in March now, announced quite a bit. Overwatch 2 is a big one, but really just unloaded on Diablo. Diablo 2 remake, Diablo 4 is going to be announced, and they introduced the rogue character back into Diablo 4, which, quite frankly, I know I'm pumped about. But it seems like Blizzard's entire mantra was retro.
Yeah, and this comes into something that I almost would want to talk about in a larger sense of innovation and like new IPs and new franchises, because it does feel like we either get, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which has gotten so far away from what it was when it started that it doesn't even seem like the same core game and storyline, but don't want to lose the IP. And now we're seeing a lot of this sort of like updating or refreshing of existing titles, and even Mass Effect Legendary Edition we're going to talk about falls into that of just like, let's take something that was a huge success and bring it back. You know what I mean? So with Diablo 4, I look forward to it. I want to see it. You know what I mean? I want to play it for sure. Do you think it's really going to bring anything new to the franchise?
I mean, I don't think any of the Diablo games really do. I got made fun of by two of my good friends in Pittsburgh for talking to the non-playable characters and NPCs in Diablo, because it's like, why even waste your time? And I'm like, I want to know the story, but honestly, Diablo's stories are irrelevant. It's just eluding, just bang them up and loot. And
Yeah.
I mean, it is fun, but it's a mind-numbing game. So I think it's a good for games like that. It's a good recipe. But I mean, you play Diablo similar to, Pokemon. It's a tried and true formula, and too many changes, you're going to lose your audience. With Diablo, I think it's trying to recapture as many elements as Diablo 2, which is why they're remastering it. And I think that's why they're bringing back some of the classes that were in Diablo 2. I like Diablo 3 a lot, but I felt like if you didn't play the Demon Hunter, it really wasn't worth your while. That was also a bit of older news, but Nintendo Direct last month in February unveiled a couple big games. I think the biggest title was the remake for Skyward Sword. I think a bit of a fan favorite among Zelda fans. Me personally, it's definitely one of my favorites. I know it gets a lot of heat, but I think story-wise, the whole idea that you learn how the Master Sword is created is kind of cool. But I think the biggest thing is, actually have a platform that can actually deal with the mechanics Skyward Sword introduced, which was the super sensitive Wii controllers and actually moving your shield and your sword with the Wii remotes. Hopefully the Switch can do that properly, because everyone that played on the Wii, it was definitely falling short.
That's interesting. I have to admit, and we've talked about this before, that I never was a big Zelda fan. Although I do know that the main character's name is really Link, and Zelda's the princess who's constantly getting saved. So I got that to my credit. It's an interesting point you make about the improvements in technology, because I wonder how many games didn't live up to their potential because the technology wasn't there to support the concept. But why don't I put this to you really fast? As a Zelda fan, a self-proclaimed Zelda fan, what would you say are your like top 3 or 5 maybe Zelda
self-proclaimed. I mean, I have Zelda on the background. You can't really see it. I need to do a better job of bringing it forward.
Make you a true
I'm a nerd. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't know unless I have
there's got to be a test, right? Like we got to ask you some super esoteric questions to prove that you deserve the title of fan.
No number of Funko Pops will prove that. No, I do like Skyward Sword. I think we talked about this before, and I think I did put Skyward Sword in my top 5, and I am going to renege on that because I did kind of go back through, and it is up there for me. It is, but I didn't include Link to a New World on the 3DS, which I do think deserves to be in the top 5. So I'd move that into top 5 and probably Skyward Sword down to 6. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, why would you do that? Again, Skyward Sword's story, I think, does hold up. And I do think it's cool that it's the first actual piece in Zelda lore. I don't think people give that enough credit because you have so many stories that conflict, and it's like Skyward Sword is the starting port. That's where all these things branch off of. So yeah, if the gameplay is just a little bit better, I think people will appreciate that a lot more. But as far as a quick top 3, Majora's Mask at 3, I think it is one of the toughest challenges, and I think it actually gives more meaning to the Ocarina, because let's be honest, in Ocarina of Time, you really don't use it all that much. Majora's Mask, I think it actually serves its purpose, and the challenge of that, even though it doesn't feel like a traditional Zelda game, no matter how old you are, which generation of Zelda fan you are, I think it's a fun and difficultly fun challenge. 2, Link to the Past, hands down, I think probably the best old school retro. And I mean, if you never played it, I think it's that and Chrono Trigger are probably 2 games that you want to play in the Super NES, and hopefully they add that to the Switch library on them.
You always
But
bring up
Breath of
Chrono
the
Trigger.
Wild, I don't know how you can't put that at number 1. I think it took everything that embodied a Zelda game with discovery, exploration, and curiosity, and just blew the top off of it. And it's a blast. And no matter who you are, I think you have a completely different experience going back to it, playing it multiple times. And I mean, at Double D, you play it, you're gonna have a whole different experience how you went about it, and I did. And I think that's the beauty of those games.
Yeah, well, I mean, of the games, I will say I think Breath of the Wild is maybe the one that's been most influential, because now there are games that take inspiration from Breath of the Wild. I don't know if the same can be said of other Zelda games. Like off the top of my head, nothing occurs to me. But Genshin Impact is a game that's gotten fairly popular on its own, and is very much like, how do we turn Zelda into, or Breath of the Wild specifically, into like a gacha game? We just talked about Pokemon Legends Arceus. Again, seems to be taking inspiration from that, and like it's become sort of a cultural touchstone, or like a comparison point, you know what I mean? That like a measuring stick rather, that games are compared to that. And I don't know if the same can be said of any other game in the franchise.
All right. Speaking of Switch, though, and reasons to buy, if you haven't already,
Nintendo
is coming. Yeah, Nintendo is coming out the new 4K version. Let me make sure I got the specs right here. It's going to be 4K high definition graphics and 7 inches across the screen. The current model is 6.2 by 5 inches. And this will be able to feature 720 pixels, bigger than the Lite as well.
It's 720p for the handheld resolution, but 4K for the
console.
The console.
Sorry.
Okay, gotcha.
You are much better at the tech side than I am, so thank you for explaining that.
I actually have a 4K TV, unlike some people.
Yeah, no, I actually just still have an analog. So.
He's watching WandaVision. He's like, "That's analog, my TV." Yeah. He's like, right there. Episode 1. He's like, "That's it." This actually is great news for me, because I do have the 4K TV. My girlfriend gave me a lot of shit for buying it because she didn't think it made enough of a difference in our viewing experience, and she also loves the Switch, to be honest. Because of you, for our viewing fans, got to visit him one time. We played some games, and she absolutely enjoyed the Switch and the interactivity of it and everything else. And this made me feel completely inferior with my PC games that I've been trying to get her to play for years, literally years at this point. So you tell me there's an upgraded Switch coming out. I'm all about that.
But I think with the Switch, to your point, it is definitely a communal kind of console, and it's easy for a non-gamer to, have fun playing Mario Party or Mario Golf, or honestly any of the Mario games with Mario Kart. It's just a fun, easy to play. And with the handheld portion for the retro gamers, I've always said, if you just want to sit there and nerd out for a bit in game, the Switch is the best console to do that. It doesn't disguise itself as a home entertainment console like Xbox and PlayStation do. It's just strictly you want to there and you want to game out with by yourself, handheld, or with friends on the 4K. It's like, why not? And I think that's the beauty of it.
And I totally agree. And talking about nerding out on things, then I think that kind of brings us to our main point of discussion for the evening, which will be Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
All right. So to the topic you guys are all tuning in really for, Mass Effect, everything about the Mass Effect culture, and of course, Mass Effect Legendary Edition. But before we dive into the weeds of the Normandy, the Legendary Edition basically going to be an overhaul, nice remaster of all 3 games, includes all the DLC for all 3 games. And I think most of the changes are going to be in the original, which is very needed. I think anybody that had played the original is well aware story stands up to the test of time. The gameplay does not by any means.
Yeah, and this is, I mentioned this earlier, kind of how nostalgia affects things, right? Like looking back, I absolutely did enjoy playing the original Mass Effect game at the time. And yet, even without playing it again, I can think back to like things that happened in that game, the jankiness of the Mako controls, and just sort of like the very empty spaces everywhere, and like a lot of like nothing going on sometimes as you were traveling around. And just doesn't, like, it's not what I would consider satisfying today from a gameplay perspective. So I'm glad they're taking a look at that stuff, as well as including all the DLCs, which I personally haven't touched, but you have.
There's a lot of good DLCs on there. I still think Shadow Broker and The Arrival, I must play in 2. And we'll get into it with 3 a bit, but I think all of 3's DLCs are worthwhile because they are just extensions, and it kind of keeps that ride going. Particularly the when you go back and return to Omega and that whole mission, I think that's like 2 hours extra of gameplay. But to base your running gun with Tiaria Loke is an absolute blast. And I think it's a character that you not necessarily fell in love with, but you definitely like so many characters in the Mass Effect universe. And you want to see kind of more of who they are, what they do, aside from the initial mission and introduction. A big part too of Legendary Edition we didn't immediately address the femshep. You
Yeah.
can be a female shepherd out of the gates. That was something you could only do in the third. Out of the gates now, you can immediately make a female shepherd, which I'm sure is, massively big news for a large portion of the audience. And
Femshep, they're adding just a lot more customization options in general. So beyond what was in the base game, it seems like they're adding more hairstyles, more face shape control and stuff like that. I don't know if it extends also to outfits and piercings and tattoos and stuff like that, but in general, not only are they introducing Femshep from Mass Effect 1 that you'll be able to play as, you always were able to import saves across and like maintain your character, so to speak, but then you always had that issue too of like, as the graphic systems updated across generations, your character would look a little bit different. Maybe wasn't quite what you were expecting in terms of how they updated things. Like, oh, like I didn't think I was that scarred, or, like my hair I didn't think was quite so whatever. As it updated, now you're going to have a very cohesive character from start to finish, which I think is going to be very nice. And these expanded character customization options, I think, are also wonderful in terms of immersion, because if anything Mass Effect does well, it's immersion and storytelling. That has to be its strong point.
That does. And with the remaster too, it's starting with 1 where again that story holds up. They did cut the time of elevator rides as well, because if you play the original, you'd be in an elevator for like 5-10 minutes.
Well, those were their non-loading screens, right? Like the hidden loading screen.
But no, I think the immersion point, I think it's massively important, because when you did play the first one, if you're a fan, you enjoyed it. But sitting there and having to level up and do that grind, and when you got to level 10, level 15, it was like, okay, now I actually feel like I'm playing infantry class. Now I actually feel like a soldier. Now I actually feel like a biotic. It definitely takes you out of the game. So for folks that are just getting into it, I think it's a great starting point. Absolutely. I didn't play the first one until right before the third one came out, and I started with the second one as my first introduction. Before the third launched, I played straight through 1, 2, and then was able to time it when the third came out. And still one of the best gaming experiences I think ever. It was awesome.
Man, I do feel a little bit bad for you in the sense that you did the second before you got to experience the first, maybe. But the only reason I played the first game first was because I forget if it was you. I think it might have been you made the specific recommendation to do that, and so I went out of my way to get a copy of the first edition or borrow it. Play the very first Mass Effect game, play the second one, and then the third in order. And glad that I did. I'm very glad that I did. So I feel like this might be the moment where we have to say major spoilers ahead, right? We are going to make certain assumptions about the people listening to this podcast right now. And if this is not you, feel free to listen, but don't know how much you'll take away from it. And the first assumption we're making is that you've played the games, that you have an awareness of the overall story, you know what's happened in the games. And we will be discussing specific character options, or specific characters, their storylines, choices. And as we've mentioned before, storyline, choice, this is some very big stuff in Mass Effect. One of the reasons you should absolutely play it if you haven't, but you probably don't want to know the consequences of those decisions before you get to make them for yourself. So we're going to assume you've played the games. We're also going to assume that you have a general recollection of these storylines and how things played out. We'll talk about our decisions and our feelings of things. We're going to try to avoid doing summaries. We might do a few here and there, obviously, depending on like DLC stuff would be a little more necessary because it wasn't part of the base games. We're assuming that the person staying for this part is going to be someone who basically has some familiarity with the franchise and is prepared for this sort of deeper dive into what we loved, what we liked. I don't know that there was anything we particularly hated.
I have to guess.
Well, yeah, right. You and the fucking and the Reapers, man. Like, let's just.
Oh yes.
Why do you hate them so? Why do you hate the Geth? Right, like the Reapers.
Oh my God,
they were assholes.
Sentient
What's wrong with the
beings.
Geth?
And this is what you're talking about. Like, this is not the Mass Effect Wiki page at this stage. We assume you're up to date. You've read everything, you've played it, you've experienced it, and you're in it for the fun now. I don't trust cyborgs and sentient beings. Okay, I don't know. Forgive me for being a carbon product and a human being.
Is this just a game thing, or is this like a real life like?
If
Neil
aliens
doesn't get down with drones.
Like, no, I really don't. I get mad that we're having this conversation. I'm probably gonna have like Mass Effect recommendations on like Google popping up on Instagram and Facebook. That drives me crazy. I'm like, hey, Skynet, tone it down a notch. Yeah, exactly. No, I will never get a Roomba because I don't need that thing like flying on my face and like sucking out my oxygen as I'm sleeping. That's that type of stuff I think about. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, I don't need no transformer. I don't need a Decepticon in my house.
Who even thinks about that stuff? Like, seriously, like
Remember that read sci-fi and Jules Verne growing up? I don't know. It says H.G. Wells. It's programmed in my brain now.
I mean, it's funny you mention it because related to what you're saying, but it's slightly off topic from Mass Effect, there was an article that came out about a general basically expressing concern with the future of warfare in the sense that drones are becoming more and more common, and drones are able, like computers basically are able to make decisions faster than people. And that question of like, do we go live, do we fire, traditionally has a human component. Someone decides to give the command to go fire, to go live to fire. And because of computers and drone warfare and stuff becoming more and more common, he was basically making the point that there won't be time to ask somebody if this is a good idea or not. Like, you're literally going to have to trust the computer or the AI or whatever you want to call it to make the decision.
Show's over.
Because we don't have time to talk to people anymore, because otherwise opposing or enemy drones they'll act before you have that chance.
That's my point. That's just crazy to me. It's just there's everything and again, maybe because we don't know and everything we're taught is based in fiction, sci-fi, like universes like Mass Effect. It's that computers are inherently smarter than us and will ultimately not necessarily turn on us, but since they're smarter than us, would be like, you're going to make the wrong decisions. This is the right decision, regardless of how many lives may be at stake. And that's where, again, I'm not going to trust a cyborg. And, you put me in a position like Commander Shepard, and I have these sentient beings that are coming and being like, you know what we're doing? We're going to reset the clock because we think, these primal cultures can stick around and then they can get to their sticks and stones, learn from like your skyscrapers and tech, and then we're going to come back in a couple thousand years and kill them. Fuck that, Doors. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to blow up all the Reapers, you squid-looking motherfuckers, and destroy you. And anybody that like follows you, cough, cough, the Geth, you're getting gunned down too.
Okay.
Story.
Pause. So, first of all, I just finished a rewatch of Stargate SG-1, which was an incredible show that ran on Sci-Fi. I'm into season 9 now, which is very different from the first 8 seasons. Different team, different vibe, whatever. But in the show, there are these replicators. Have you ever watched it before?
I'm familiar with Stargate, but I've never watched it.
Right.
I've watched like when the movie came out. I think I was like 8-9 years old because I'm ancient, but that's the extent of my Stargate knowledge.
So there's one alien race that they have issues with called the replicators, and as the name implies, like they're basically nanobots that construct more of themselves, and so they eat all matter essentially.
And right, so it's like the robots in Horizon Zero Dawn.
If I ever played that game, I would definitely know that reference.
All right, they eat biomass. They consume biomass and end up basically overtaking the world because they're consuming anything that's carbon-based.
Huge spoilers. Thank you, because I absolutely want to buy that game. But yes, no, they're very similar in terms of like, so they consume technology, consume things, and incorporate into themselves, and they constantly are killing organic life. And they make the point in the show of saying basically like, from our experiences having visited, hundreds, if not thousands of worlds and like organic life always gets to a point developmentally where it creates artificial life and always seeks to basically control or enslave that life. Like they don't ever get to the point of recognizing it as properly independent or sentient, which, from their view is not correct, not moral, you know what I mean? And basically that idea that like humans or organic life is incapable of viewing artificial life as being truly alive, and getting back to Mass Effect, I think the game made us grapple with that, right? Like you had Legion, you had EDI, which were very rich characters in and of themselves. You had Tali, who's kind of presenting maybe the other side of this conversation a little bit with repping the Quarians and their battle with the Geth.
The empathy there.
Yeah.
We created this and we let it loose, and now we have to live with the fact that they overtook our homeworld.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, to that question, and then coming back to Mass Effect and to the Reapers a little bit, like to be clear, you chose the kill Reapers ending. Like just straight up like fucking work them.
I spent over 100 hours between 3 games killing Reapers and 1 mission on my mind. So you better be damn clear when, the Crucible's like, you got 3 options. I'm like, fuck you, I got 1. Get out of my way, kid. Like, don't even, like, I was like, don't stop talking to me. You said I got to destroy Reapers over here. I don't give a shit what the other 2 are. Give me my pistol. I'm out. You know what I mean? He's like talking to me like, well, you want to hear about this? No, like, I'm good. We're good here, man. Yeah. And it's the best decision of the game. It's the only right decision.
I mean, so I from the perspective that you're coming at it from. I definitely see why you did. I understand. And if we look at it from a real world perspective, which is like, again, part of what makes this game great, is it does allow us to draw parallels to the real world and to our own experiences in life. Understand where you're coming from. However, clearly the wrong decision, because the best decision was synthesis, right? Because you can't control them. You don't know that you're going to be able to maintain control indefinitely, or that there's no more Reapers out there, some shit, like how they may evolve on their own and stuff like that. Like, you can't control them. Synthesis is really the only true way to achieve peace and elevating artificial life to the level and respect they deserve as being fully sentient and alive. You can't tell me EDI and Legion are not like absolute bro crew members.
All I'm saying, if we're gonna play like the sentient beings frame of mind, probability wise, 0.00002% of the population, ED and Legion, isn't enough for me to be like, you know what? Let's trust these guys. So I'm gonna spin it back on their logic, the ones and zeros, and the whole fact that like they don't live in any sort of gray area. No, and like, I'm sorry, Joker got his side piece. He got to enjoy ED for a bit. I'm happy for my dude, but he's been on with Eden Prime. He's been with me since then. So it's like, dude, you know what's going on, man. You know what we're doing here, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, because Joker
like,
has a fundamental appreciation. Ah, come on. He's got a fundamental appreciation of the fact that like the AI were mistreated. Like, it's not. So what is your take then on like the Arachne? Well, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, I think, a little bit. Like the Arachne Queen, the Genophage rather, with the Genophage and everything to control them. Look, so why don't we put a pin in this for a second? Who were your go-to crew members, squad mates through the games?
I mean, I think it changes a little between each game slightly, but Garrus and Tally are my main two. Rex rode him and Rex and Garrus rode me quite a bit in the first one, but if we're gonna go through characters that carry over pretty much each game, Garrus and Tally. I mean, Tally was my love interest. She's my boo. You know, I mean, that's my number one, ride or die.
Man, and we've talked about this sort of, you know, at other moments, but why are you constantly exposing your love interest to the threat of imminent death?
You know, I'm a masochist, man. Anything that's gonna make my life difficult or like uncomfortable, I'm like, you know, let me explore that. So in my gaming experience, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna also bring my love interest into, you know, a suicide mission and be like, let's see if we can make it out. Are we really meant to be together? You know, I like the challenge. Let's see, you know, if we both survive, maybe this is a real thing. Maybe we can go on a second date. Let's see how it works out.
Really, so much of your personality just comes out in your gaming decisions. Because why in the world?
So,
I mean, I gotta say,
it's the trust component, honestly.
Really? Oh, because okay, I can kind of see that.
And like with Tally though too, like her combat drone, I think is one of the most underappreciated aspects of that game as far as a squad mate. When you do max it up, especially in the second and third one, that does some serious damage, especially to husks. That I was infiltrator class through most of my playthroughs. I did play engineer and a couple other ones. Those are the only two classes. And honestly, I mean, I enjoy playing those the most. That's why I never tried Biotic. I had no desire to play Biotic. With her drone as infiltrator, I thought that was super clutch. And again, Garrus, similar kind of components. So it's like two snipers. You need someone doing that grunt work. And in the second one, I'd have Grunt running through there, taking the shotgun blast. And then Javik in the third. I did like Javik's character a lot in the third. Rode with him quite a bit. Ashley as well. And Liara. Liara, I got to give props to as well. So
Javik. I was like, who is this person? It's a DLC character. Thank you kindly. Javik. Okay. Well, good to know.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I honestly, no, I kind of forgot about it because that was back in the day when you pre-purchased the game, you got certain DLC. And now I feel like everything's, you know, you get it out of the gates no matter when you purchase games anymore. So like that was back. You had to go to GameStop at midnight release, and it was like, hey, you get Javik, and it was like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? You get a Prothean.
I mean, that is cool though that you actually got. You know, like I feel like today they've moved away from impactful pre-order bonuses to more like cosmetic stuff. I don't know. I understand the concept of like you don't want people to be disadvantaged maybe, but like I would prefer maybe a real reward for a pre-order. That's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
I will second Garrus. Made my squad through all three games. I think he made my squad for some period of time. Because I do remember like in different games, like rotating based on kind of the mission or the needs, or you know what I mean? Like I like bringing characters along that had connections to the story. So same. If I knew there was a tie in there, I would swap someone out to just get that person there for the dialogue that they would have, because there was a lot of unique dialogue if you brought them along. So Garrus constantly made my squad. In the first Mass Effect, Rex was my other bro for sure. Mass Effect 2, Legion came along quite a bit, which might be why I was more positive towards Legion than you were.
I do like Legion, and I like Legion in the second one. I'm not again
Did you
Legion.
really?
He, I'm sorry. It's one of those things where you gotta make a hard choice, man. You can't save everybody, man. And it's I had a mission to do, man. He knew what was up, man. He knew there was tension when he came aboard the Normandy. He got it. He understood.
He handled his business, and Thane Krios in the second one actually became a pretty staple character for me. Like I wanted to replace Rex with Grunt, but Grunt wasn't Rex, so you know what I mean. I think I ended up running Garrus and Thane a lot.
I
Legion
did
got
forget
in
about
there.
Thane.
And then by the time we get to Mass Effect 3, you know, I kept Garrus alive through everything, so he stayed available to me. Edie also became a pretty common character on my team. And so maybe I wonder how much this actually played into, you know what I mean, like our final decisions now that I'm realizing like you really stayed away from not like maybe completely, but it does sound like you stayed away from the AI characters where they were rather staple members of my squad going through things like Legion and Edie specifically.
I mean, I did have Tally, who kind of is the bridge between that. Edie, I didn't run
Yeah,
with
but
too
like,
much.
was Talia ever actually positive towards the Geth? Like, I don't think she ever comes around on it, right?
I mean, I think in the third one, when you're on Rennick and that mission, and we can get into the choices and paramount decisions in a bit here, but I do think she does have a bit more empathy, and even her relationship with Legion in the second one, depending how much you're walking on the Normandy,
Yeah.
talking to everybody, I think you see that unfold. And to your point, when you take certain characters on certain missions, and I do like that the game forces you, like doing the Cerberus mission, ED has to come with you. You do kind of stop and think, like, who else would be a good fit for this? It isn't so much sometimes combat, it's the story component, because I did the same thing in a lot of missions with that. So but I mean, Legion in the suicide mission in the second one, there's certain moments I think in anybody's playthrough that you just like, it was awesome, it was, you just made the right choice. The combat and how you approached it was stellar. And the suicide mission, once I understood how to play that one, and I'll take you through my first thing when we get there, was always Legion and Thane. And before you actually fight the human reaper they're making,
Yeah.
and you have basically all the collectors coming in on those little pegs, those hexagonal pegs. Before they even connected, the entire thing was wasted. I'm talking Harbinger taking over. You had three snipers just pop, 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 pop. Like there was no collectors at all on any of the hexagons by the time they touch. So like that whole last mission before we even got to the Human Reaper was just awesome, because it was just like, yeah, we just laid waste to these guys. Like no problem. Now, grant the Reaper fight got a little hectic because we're all, long range guys, so you have to kind of stick and move a bit differently. But that's still one of the coolest things. And I did like playing with Legion in that sense, because I made Garrus use his assault rifle more than a sniper rifle. And with Legion and Thane, it was like, yeah, we're sniping city.
Well, and Garrus went along very well with my playstyle, which I think is why I kept him around through all of them, because I was playing scout, right? Like I was doing the sniping thing pretty hardcore. So I always needed someone to frontline for me, which was why Rex was like my fucking bro in the first one. And then like Legion and Edie both had like either like distracting talents, or they could be built in a way that was tankier. But like maybe now is a good time to transition to choices, because I distinctly remember many times picking people just to see what went down. Like I'm pretty sure I took like Talia and Legion out together just to be like, oh well, these two get along. Like I'm a little bit curious here, you know what I mean? And like just kind of stirring shit up a little bit to see what happened. So
Depending what you did in the first one, you might not have had a character to give you that different vantage point, making a choice in the second.
true story.
Now, you didn't play the DLC. One of the, I think, a very cool DLC that they do have is the comic book prelude. Basically, you can make all the choices in the previous game playing through a virtual comic book, and it is a pretty cool thing, because I think Dark Horse does the Mass Effect comics, so they do the artwork for the DLC. It is a cool thing if you don't want to actually play through 40, 50 hours of the first or second games and just hop right in the third. Before we go into love interest too, because I think that's a big part of choices. I think in the first one, the biggest thing for me was the Vermeer mission. And again, I didn't play through the first one, this one. I played through the second one about 4 times, and then I hopped in the first one before the third came out a couple months ahead of the release. Vermeer, I think, was the second mission I did once it was free roam after Eden Prime, and you get to Normandy, talk to Anderson, you got your squad.
He went way
And
way fucking soon.
I didn't know that. And I went through, you're on the Mako, you're doing your thing. I did all the side missions on the side and stuff. So I had a couple side mission parts and secrets before you actually got to Vermeer. I'm talking with Rex. He's getting pissed about the genophage. He's like, yeah, we got to cure for genophage. We got to take it. And I'm like, yo, 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 like, cool, your jet. My Paragon of Renegade was not high enough at that point in time to make the civil chores. And I'll never forget this. As he like goes to come at me, Ash just takes her gun out and just blows his head off. Just straight boom. Cold blood killing Rex as soon as he tries to make a move on me. Now, I mean, Ash is a xenophobic, like, wackadoo in the first one. Like, I don't think we talk about that enough. She is like, if you're an alien, like, I'm killing you. I don't trust anything unless you're a human being, which is
I did not get down with Ashley.
Like, I know I can be a little hard on the freaking AI and the cyborgs, but like Ash is a little wild in that one. It's like, come on, tone it down. But at still, I was like, holy shit. And I knew how important Rex was in the next games. And I was like, dude, Rex is an OG. Like, this is crazy. So I did reload and I did do the missions again. I actually used my XP to bump up my Paragon so I could have that decision. So I was able to save him. But that initial thing, I was like, holy shit. I just screwed the pooch this entire game.
Sorry. There will be some random beeping. I want to acknowledge this really quickly because I don't want to have to get rid of it. I was searching some stuff up in the background and yeah, once in a while maybe failed in my search and my computer made a nice little chiming sound to let me know. I think it's crazy though that you went for Vermeer so early.
I didn't know.
Because it was a story mission as well, dude. Like this just could be our very different approaches to how we play games. I think I've got 100 hours in Witcher, maybe more. And I still haven't moved to the second continent. Like, I actually haven't finished Witcher 3 still. I haven't even gotten to the second continent because I'm like, oh, there's so many things to do on this first continent. Like, why would I ever leave before doing absolutely everything that I possibly can? And like, before I progress a story mission, I will absolutely finish every single side mission. And not only will I finish every side mission, I will visit every place that I've been to see if there's new missions available because I completed those side missions to complete those missions. So I will literally like go through every town and just ignore the story mission until I've confirmed 100% that I've done everything I can possibly do before I move on. Which speaks to me possibly being neurotic. Now that I say it out loud, it doesn't sound healthy.
I'm glad you came to a conclusion.
It really does. Yeah. But God, I cannot imagine going into Vermeer half-cocked, dude. Like, what the hell?
Again, I didn't know the magnitude of that mission, and honestly, shame
neither
on me
did
for
I. But like, it was a story mission. That should have been your like heads up of like this.
I didn't put two and two together with like the Vermeer mission and like all those subtle conversations you have with folks. And I mean, I do have the Mass Effect bracelet, so repping the nerdum. But I mean, I am a completionist with Mass Effect in certain games. Not every game. It depends on how much I like it, but I won't do every side mission before a main mission sometimes. And in that sense, it was like, okay, cool. Let's start with Vermeer. Seems like a fun mission. Like, why not? And unascended in combat in Mass Effect 2, I did figure that was going to help me get a level up pretty quick. So I did want to do that. But I just, again, I should have done my homework realizing and putting two together that Vermeer was a mission you probably should do last. And I did kill Caden because I'm sorry, I know Liara and Ash are the love interest. So it's just, I had to have them duke it out. I don't really care for Caden. I was like, dude, I don't know why you're coming at me, man. Like, I just got on the ship. He's like, oh man, let's make out. And I'm like, whoa, take it easy. I don't have a whole like crew yet.
Was I vibing that way? Did I?
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. Well, because it kind of comes back to a gaming experience, which I think we have less of these days in terms of natural exploration, natural discovery of the games and the choices, right? I think there's much more of that. People look up guides or they look up, story choices, and there's just so much of wealth of information, right? Like back in the day, you had to buy. There was like an official guide that had like story choices or like secret items and stuff like that.
You bought a game and you bought the guidebook depending on how crazy the game was. Nowadays, you just buy the game and go on YouTube.
I remember with like Final Fantasy, I want to say it was like 10 or something. I bought like a book that was like that thick that had like all these like secret things and things you could do in the game and everything else. And like, it was an investment by itself to do that. And so you had these moments of discovery or where you made bad choices, right? Like it probably was not the best choice to approach Vermeer when you did, but you didn't know, and like, it'll be interesting playing the games again for me now, the Legendary Edition coming out, knowing more about what goes on. And like, I haven't done the DLC, so that'll be like the fun sort of like, I don't know what I'm getting into. I don't know what the consequences of these decisions are. Like, it'll all be fresh and new in that respect. But it's a very organic gaming experience that I think is a little bit going away. And that's kind of my side rant about that. But coming to the issue you brought up of Caden versus Ashley, I didn't get rid of. I killed Caden as well, not because I'm a closet homophobe like some people might be.
Wow, wow, wow. That's ridiculous. Listen, Cortez and three, man. I flirted with Cortez big time, and I was like, Cortez, you trying to get this? You trying? Ooh, yeah. I mean, I did my thing, man. I was like a little bi-curious over here, but then I was like, end of the day, Tally's my girl, man. Like that's it. You gotta go, kid.
Oh yeah, I mean, Tally was my love interest too.
But I mean, Caden just also too like
he didn't have a compelling story the first one.
Yeah,
I don't know how his character would have developed, but at least in the first one, he seemed very, like Ashley had like story moments where you're like, wow, like what, you know what I mean? Like we talked about that, like shooting Rex and stuff. Like she has like a personality. She has a personality, and wanted to see where that went. She wasn't my love interest in any of the games at all, but like I at least was curious about her character development. Because I'll also say, because we're sort of talking about characters and choices, like I really enjoyed how Mass Effect gave the characters stories outside of just their time with us, right? Like a lot of times it even felt like we set them up for things. And I think like realistically we didn't. Like their stories were mostly plotted out of like if they survived, they did X. It didn't matter. Like it wasn't like there was like, she goes here, she goes there, she got like there were options for them within the universe. It was just like, did you live or not? But we get that sense too that like their time with us in our crew was almost a transformative experience because everyone leaves to go on to some other greater thing, so to speak. And a lot of that feels influenced by their time with us. That makes the game feel very impactful. You know what I mean?
No, and I think that's one of the cool things with Mass Effect 2 is that transformation and the journey of the characters. I mean, the whole point is you're building at the point in time. It's like, okay, humans are the
new kids on the block,
fresh species, yeah. So it's just like no one really trusts them. There is a lot of racism and a lot of xenophobia between the species. Ashley's a perfect example of that. I forget the other character in Mass Effect 2 on the brig. He's the same way, but that's the whole point of Mass Effect. It is about inclusiveness and the fact of you have to find a middle ground, and you have to bring Krogans and Solarians who have thousands of years of bad beef together and make them work together and squash that. Same thing with AI and humans. Same thing with the Turians and humans after the first Contact Wars. And it does. I think regardless of who you are as a gamer, though, too, I think that's why it's so immersive, too, because you might have perceptions on certain characters. And honestly, some of your actual real life perceptions may, bleed into the game and might change some opinions. I mean, I don't know, but
no, absolutely.
You have this storytelling.
Well, because one of the things I came across when I was researching for this a little bit was in February of 2020, so just a year ago, honestly, one of the game, I forget what his position was for the thing, but John Ebinger, who worked on Mass Effect at BioWare, worked on like games like Assassin's Creed and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, posted a tweet that something like 92% of Mass Effect players were Paragon. And he's kind of joking, he's got like the sad face, like we put a lot of work into Renegade content too. And I feel like it's just interesting how, given this sort of like sandbox world of like you can be good, you can be bad, like you can do not even bad, like Renegade options a lot of times were just like being badass sometimes, like not conforming to certain social norms. I think
the Renegade option more than anything is only a few times where like I picked Renegade. I played pretty half and half. So like my first playthrough in 2 was tough because I didn't have full bars in either one. And I didn't do the loyalty missions too, which we'll get to there with choices in the second one. But again, that's my first experience through Mass Effect at all. And I wasn't aware of how important they were.
I mean,
I did some, but not all of them.
They're called loyalty missions.
Yeah. Well, again, like I like certain characters more than others. So like I did like Garrus, I did Tally's, I didn't do Jacobs. I don't think I did Jack's the first playthrough. Maybe I did Miranda's, but
Jack was fucking crazy.
Jack's like we'll go through it. All right, right now, like okay. Who's your main booze? What's your list? I know Tally's also your top, but I know on other playthroughs you had to pick somebody else. So who was the side piece?
When you put it like that, it really degrades the whole relationship. No, so
oh my gosh. Listen, the Normandy is like a giant. It's like a sex boat. It's a space.
It's a restaurant.
Let's be honest. It's a little ridiculous. It really is.
It's a restaurant. It's the whole. We all work together. We all fuck together.
He's giving hand jobs up in the cockpit, and you're like, oh, okay. I was I'm up here trying to talk about a mission.
Right. No, and Joker's just putting together his own personal sex spot.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And you're just like, really? It's cool, man. Like we might die soon. It's cool. Live your best life, and like that's the beauty of Mass Effect, right? It's just live your best life.
It really is something else. I mean, so my first playthrough, what I'll consider my core playthrough, however you want to think of it. Tali
Your college
was
years.
yeah, it was all through the first 3 games. It was Tali all the way. And I will admit, like once or twice, I might have done one of those where like I might have made it like a side choice to sort of see what happened, and then reloaded a save and be like, no, we're straight, where's Team Tally? Um, and so I would say that if it wasn't Tally, the other person that I was like chick number 2 on my list would be Liara.
Liara is
Definitely. I don't know what it is about her. If it's like she's really just kind of like nice, basically. Like she seemed very emotionally stable, which Jack did not have going on at all.
I like Jack, yeah.
Jack was such a I was weird for me to see the part where we find her teaching at the academy later on, like the Grissom Academy or whatever it's called. Because like my impression of her from like the time that she spent on our squad was like, this bitch is like absolutely just like fucking out there. Like, and then to see her teaching people and like defending them and everything else was just like, girl, you really had some character development there. Holy shit. Liara, I think Miranda Lawson would be my third.
I was never a Miranda fan.
You know,
Didn't like her. No.
Why not?
It was always about her. I mean, even her sex scene, she's riding in the engine room. She's like, yeah, look at me. Ooh. It's just like, whatever, get out of here. You know what I mean? She's like, what isn't a team player? It's all about, I'm perfect. Who? Because like someone said you are, get the fuck out of here.
I mean, genetically she is, isn't she? Right? Like that's her
She's
story.
dookie.
She was
Don't like her.
She
Plus,
was made.
She's a Cerberus crony. At least Jacob was like, yeah, it's a paycheck. Sometimes I'm kind of like, hey guys, you seem a bit eccentric. I don't know if I trust you completely. And as a black guy, I'm definitely like, I don't know about this. So I was like, you know what, Jacob, you're all right, man. You're right. Miranda, though, she's drinking the Kool-Aid. I didn't like that. I'm like,
I mean, she gets away from that in the long run, right?
She does, especially in the third. But through the second one, not a fan. Honestly, one of the parts in the game that legitimately I had to stop and walk away from. I'm not sure if you ever had any emotions like this. When I did,
yes, I have emotions. Thank you, Neil. Yes, I have had emotions in my life.
Listen,
it's been known to happen occasionally. Yeah. I know I'm a robot sympathizer. I'm not actually a robot, though.
Well, my trained apathy. I was like, what am I experiencing right now? I was having like panic attacks playing through Mass Effect. I was like, I've shut myself down for so long just to like achieve my goals. I'm like, what is this? Yeah, what is happening?
When you find more emotional connection with the games,
pretty much. Yeah. No, but when I played through the first and the second one for the first time, Liara was my boo in the first one because she really is way more compassionate than Ashley is. Ash is really like kind of a vile character in the first one. Her arc improves, but she definitely is like, man, she's this very anti.
I kept her not because I liked her. I kept her because she was interesting, not because I thought she was actually like a good person.
She just did have still a better story than Caden did. Yeah. But I did Liara, and I do like Liara a lot. And in the second one, the Shadow broke in the DLC, depending on how you are and everything else, there is, a second kind of reconnect kind of thing, which is cool. So, got a little wah in the second. But Tally was my boo, and I liked Tally in the first one. In the second one, definitely my love interest. But when the Mars mission, the third, like as soon as you finally are out of the gate, she's like, what's going on with us? And it's like, shit, what is going on with this? Because like the world's on fire, literally. And I guess I gotta make a choice now. Am I riding with Liara, or I haven't seen is Tally in the game still? I don't know. I haven't discovered her yet. Do I say like yeah, or do I hold out and be like, no, Tally's still my boo? We're carrying things over from the suicide mission. We're still doing pretty good. You know what I mean? We're Facebook official. Like we're gonna see how this goes. I had to walk away from the game at that point and be like, Am I gonna bang out Liara this entire game, or like me and Tally, making some weird core and babies? I don't know. And I went Tally.
Well, I mean, right choice, obviously, because I will support you there. So I'd like to switch over a little bit, maybe towards the choices that we've been talking about, the choices we made. We've talked about Vermar, we've talked about Ashley and Caden. I'm trying to think of what else would be the Arachne Queen and the Council. I think are the other two sort of like major choices you're making in the first game. Right now, the Arachne Queen, to be totally fair, I don't think ends up being a consequential choice. Right, like no matter what you do, she comes back one way or another, or like the Arachne come back one way or another in later game.
It makes the combat harder, I think, if you kill her, because then it's strictly Reapers. I think that's the difference in it.
Interesting.
I'm sorry, I forget too. It has been a bit
because there is like a thing where like she gets cloned or some shit like. it doesn't. I don't think it plays out as being as consequential maybe as it could be. But regardless, I think it's one of those decisions that in the first game I felt strongly about, at least, like what to do with this other alien race, and it has some real Starship Trooper vibes.
It does. And to your point, again, the evolution of everything you kind of taught about the Rachni is they're these savage, brutal insect creatures and very Starship Troopers like. The Krogans, which are essentially just militant war force, clan like kind of species, is essentially a gun for hire to get rid of the Rachni, which were going to run rampant all over the universe. And for as strong as the Krogan then got, then the Solarians ended up shooting them in the back and creating the genophage, right? But when you finally do meet the Rachni Queen, it's again like this is a living species. This isn't the Geth. It's not the Reapers. It's not AI. This is a living thing and pleading for its life with you in that game. And I think in that point in time, and I think that's the beauty of Mass Effect and the storytelling, is regardless of who you are, it's decisions like that to where you're like, yeah, like can you pull the trigger on that? And I think what I love about this entire franchise is there's not too many times I've played through the game and been like, just do the opposite choice to see what happens. I mean, it's certain playthroughs, but I still try to play games like Mass Effect as like, what would I do in those scenarios? And
Yeah, I just need to ask myself, what would Neil do?
but that was a tough one.
So I did look this up to see what consequence it has in the long run, because I had forgotten. Because I never took the other side. I always saved her. To me, it was a clear choice. I was a very Paragon player, obviously. If you kill her, the Reapers build a clone known as the Breeder, and then you will have the option to either side with the Breeder or some Krogans. Basically, it seemed like when you're presented with that choice, it's actually a trap, because it seems like it's a fair choice between, do you want Krogans, do you want the Breeder with all of her like many children and stuff like that, blah blah. But if you end up choosing the Breeder, she doesn't continue to assist you, right? Like in the final game stuff, like the asset she provides isn't permanent. So by the time you get to the final mission, she's no longer providing a benefit. Whereas if you side with the Krogans will be there with you all the way through to the end. So it's a kind of a trick, essentially. Now you can get the Krogans and the Rachni if you save the queen in the first game. So it is consequential in terms of your assets that you have available to you for the final battle. I didn't realize that, actually. I thought it was more of a throwaway decision than it actually is. And I'm glad they saved her then.
Wait, because with the third one, the battle preparedness is a big one going to the final battle. They did do away with the multiplayer in the third one, Legendary Edition, which is something we forgot.
Yeah, we didn't mention that. Yeah, they got. But, how do you feel about that, by the way? Are you glad they got rid of the multiplayer?
I like the multiplayer, and I'm not. I play a lot of single player games, and it's nice to kind of, waiting for May to kind of get back into Mass Effect would be a lot of fun. But I do miss the chance to then play with my boys online in Mass Effect on updated graphics. I mean, that's kind of a game like Gears, to where I feel like. Friends of the show, I mean, JT, all of us, that's like Gears. You just pick it back up and like nothing ever stopped, and it's loads and loads of fun. Same thing like Ultimate Alliance,
I would have been okay with them removing it as a requirement, because it basically was, right? Like you couldn't get the best endings without being fully prepared, and you couldn't get preparedness without playing the multiplayer. So it was essentially a required thing to do. And if you don't want to play multiplayer, like you want a single player experience, then you're being forced to do something you don't want. So I would have supported a change to make that not necessary. Like it can still contribute to preparedness, but give us a way to reach max preparedness in game, which is obviously what they must have done at this point, right? Like if they've scrapped it entirely, there must be a way to do that. So it could have just been like this or that. You can play the multiplayer, or you can get prepared single player, like whatever. Give us the choice, because one of the things I liked about the multiplayer too was the ability to try out different abilities, try out different classes. I didn't have to commit to a whole new playthrough or a whole new type of character to get a sense of like the core gameplay, like how do these abilities interact, and the explosions with the biotics was really cool. You know what I mean? Like I never would have played a biotic character if I hadn't played the multiplayer and enjoyed that gameplay loop, so to speak. And I'm going to miss that personally.
I'm with you. And same thing with weapons too, because you couldn't pick your weapons out of the gate. So it forced you then to change your play style. Honestly, if I'm going to be a bit critical, I think a lot of people just didn't like it. Not so much because of I want to be single player. I think it showed that they're not that good at Mass Effect players. I'm gonna go there. I was straight up, you know,
I
because
mean,
you had to know what you were doing, and like you like I don't know, maybe just being infiltrator, you got used to not wasting your shots. So
it's an interesting take. I'm kind of pondering my experience in the multiplayer, and I do remember at times just wrecking people, and at other times just getting absolutely wrecked.
I mean, honestly, I would probably, well, that's tough. I don't want Mass Effect to go like COD, but I would easily pay $20 for just a Mass Effect multiplayer.
Yeah, if they
I
did
don't
it
know
as
if
a
I'd pay a
small
full
little
40
spin-off
bucks.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
'Cause, and like
you know,
again,
or
like
even like
the
what,
game's there. You know, how much would
yeah,
it really take to polish that turd up a little bit, and you know what I mean, and sell it? My concern would be loot boxes because there was
polish
kind
that
of
turd.
that in it. There's kind of that in it before was the loot boxes because like to get like certain unlocks, characters, weapons, da, da, da,
Yeah.
you earned
But it
loot
was
boxes
based
over
on
time.
challenges, though. That was the thing, though,
Yeah,
too. If you survived the waves, you got some of those better loot boxes. So it
yeah,
wasn't pay to play, which also is, you know, preferred way to play multiplayer, in my
and that would
opinion.
be my concern if they did reintroduce it, that it would move away from the challenge system that like it really just comes down to it's part of the gameplay to pay to win essentially of like, hey, I'll just buy, you know, gold tier, you know, loot boxes, whatever to unlock the best shit. So the final one from the main game would be, what did you do with the council?
I killed him, I think. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, because I think,
Was that an easy choice for you to make? Is it just
no, it was not.
fucking
It was not. No, it was not. Because again, it's, they're asses to you the whole time. They don't trust humans. And you know, they give you the Spectre status, and even with Saren and then saving the Citadel, I
Mhm.
think I did have Udina on the council. I forget if I put Anderson or Udina. Uh, it's been a while, honestly.
It's okay. It's okay. We understand. Old
Okay.
people forget things.
But no, I did get rid of them because I think it just came down to the fact that they still, after saving Citadel and essentially the universe, they still were like, oh, humans are, and it's just like, you know, fuck you guys. You know, I'm cool with everybody being on the counts. I'm cool with the Taurians. I'm cool with the Solarians, and I'm cool with the Asari still having roles. But who we got right here, I think life terms are coming to an end. So I was like, get out of here. And I think that was my beef with it. But that was a tough call. That was another one too. I think I kind of took a break, still stepped away from for like a minute or two, because it's like, is it the right thing to do? How much of renegade do you have to do? And I think that's when renegade decisions have their best effect. Is it's, again, it's a hard decision, but is it the right decision? Play the rest of the games to kind of tell.
Yeah, I mean, I know I struggled with it too personally because the character I was playing was like my headcanon was he's very loyal to his crew, and so like crew squad first basically. And a lot of times the council just seems to be using you and your crew for their own ends, and they don't really care if you live or die or whatever the fuck. Like it's just
They're not even collective to the universe. It's just for their own species, which is what bothered me with the council. It's like you guys don't even, the Tauren's not too bad, but the Asari and Solarian especially were like, they just cared about the Asari and Solarians, and it was just like, you guys are the head of intergalactic council and you just want to self-serve, like get the fuck out of here. And I think that's what, you know, kind of was like, all right, you know, if there's a chance for the new guard, yeah, it's a terrible decision, but that's kind of part of being shepherd. You have to make those tough calls.
yeah. I mean, so ultimately I did end up saving them because while I didn't like or respect the council, maybe like I said, most of my renegade choices were in regards to them, the way I treated them and talked to them and stuff like that. It was kind of at the time in my head, I'm like, learn from this. Like you now exist because of me. And I was young enough to believe that somehow my head canon was going to be the game canon of like, okay, I spared these guys, so going forward,
Yeah.
they're gonna know what's up. They're gonna know like I'm the dude, right? Like you live because I
They're going to
chose.
see on the sit down and be like, oh man,
Yeah,
you saved my
yeah,
life way
right.
back. Yeah, here's a sandwich. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like that I'm gonna get some consideration. They're gonna change their ways now that I chose to save them. They'll be better than they were. Like, you know, I had all those thoughts when I was playing through and I made that choice, maybe sort of naively, but I stand by the decision for the most part because I don't know that I like the idea. I don't know if I've ever chosen like so this is gonna be interesting because come Legendary Edition, what I do, I don't know that I've ever chosen to kill the council, and therefore it becomes what all humans, right?
No, it still stays. I think as it's presented to you,
If you kill them, you can end up with a purely human council. It depends on your morality. So killing the council and who becomes chairman if the council sacrifice, whether you choose Anderson or Udina, and your morality, you could end up with a multi-species council or purely human council. I didn't even realize that was like how that was calculated, so to speak.
No, because I do know, yeah, I didn't have the whole human council then. So again, my renegade decisions weren't completely renegade and piece
But
of
yeah.
shit. It was still trying to make the hard, tough decisions. But it, I think there's so many characters though too like that in the Mass Effect universe that are they villains? Are they not? Just by kind of being some of the ways and stubborn. I think that's what kind of makes the game so great. And then you have these conflicts between species, like now you're getting involved with what to do with the genophage. You're getting involved with what to do with the Geth and the Quarians. And it's not just the human components then too. It's like, okay, you kind of have to play God in a certain way. And I think that's when it's tough when if you play through the game the right way and you do all these side missions and you're talking to all your characters and you learn the depths of their characters and credit to the storyboard team with Mass Effect and BioWare.
Yeah.
None of these decisions are easy, no matter what. I think it's a game too, to where like you really just can't choose to go, I'm going to go all Paragon or all Renegade. I think you do yourself a disservice on any of the games if you play through that way.
I would agree. And I think it's also not how would I phrase it, like a sincere way of playing the game, like not an honest way, you know what I mean? Because you can know what's the Paragon and what's the Renegade option, and you can always choose one or the other. But I think if you're playing honestly and sincerely, there are times you will choose something different because that's the choice that resonates with you, that's the choice that makes sense, or whatever your reasoning is. Like, I don't think anyone, comments below if you disagree with this, but I don't think anyone could legitimately play through choosing just Paragon or just Renegade and fully identify with those decisions as being authentic the way they believe.
All right, the second one.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing we have the Geth Heretics and the Suicide Mission. And I think this is with the Geth Heretics we can talk about. And I kind of want to know about your first play through the Suicide Mission because mine was a shitstorm. I still have nightmares about it. I wake up, I start screaming. I think it's honestly why I'm still single. I wake up, I'm like, oh, Tally, Miranda.
I was
like, who are you talking about? And I'm like, oh, it's terrible.
My Suicide Mission, I think, went rather well. And that comes back to what we talked about before of my completionist work ethic of doing, I'll do all your loyalty missions. I'll do everything I can to power you up. And I'm a min-maxer at heart, played a lot of like World of Warcraft and stuff like that. And I do play Dungeons and Dragons and trying
low-key
to
brag. Okay.
Well, it's just stuff that I do. But my point being that I have that mentality of like, what's numerically the best fit? Do we cover all of our weaknesses? For example, do we have our incendiary ammo or warp ammo or whatever? You know what I mean? Like making armor piercing and making sure that we've got things covered.
Tungsten.
For all the different situations. So like, I'm trying to think if I lost anyone on my Suicide Mission before obviously shit went and hit the fan. I don't think I did. I think I got through it pretty well. Although I do think this might be one of the times that I might have gotten meta. I might have looked up some sort of guide or something to give me ideas on how to.
Wow.
Yo, the choices, and after I said that, like, this is like an experience that's going away because we look up guides and stuff like that, right? I denied myself that experience, but I got scared, man. It's called the Suicide Mission. Like it's not, you know what I mean? Like
it's a stressful period. Yeah, no, I'm with you. It is not an easy thing. Like,
and it specifically tells you when you go to do it, it's like, understand that once you choose to begin this mission, your choices are set in stone. You cannot go back. You cannot do anything else. Like you are on this. It freaked me the fuck out. Like I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Honestly, the death sequences, you could go on YouTube now and watch them. I watched my brother play through the Suicide Mission first, then I played through it. He had, I think, 2 deaths, and then like I only did a handful of loyalty missions. I think I did like Garrus, Tally, Jack and Miranda, I forget which one. I think Jack, because Miranda died on mine. And I didn't lose anybody the first 2 goes. I'm saying no, I lost Jacob in the first one because I didn't do his mission. He wasn't loyal, and I had him lead to the vents because he was at the tech and everything else. And that's, I think, the tough part of the Suicide Mission as well is you have to lose a squad member based on how you're going through. So depending on how you play, how you leveled up, your comfort level, I think that's tough in itself. And if they die, I mean, that's one less person to choose from than 2 going through a 4-part mission. When I watched
Normandy, collector base, infiltration, collector base, long walk, final battle. Yeah, 4.
when I watched my brother Nick play the first time, he lost Samara, and when you're doing the biotic in the field, and like it's brutal. I'm sorry, no, he lost Grunt. I'm sorry, he lost Grunt. He had Samara, and like she couldn't keep the field up, and then Grunt got like basically picked up and taken by the swarm, and like Grunt's a complete badass, and you just see him get like devoured, and you're like the whole playthrough, you're like this guy's a fucking just human killing machine, like nothing gets in his way. Well, I shouldn't say human, he's just a killing machine. He's just helpless, and you're like holy shit. When I did my final playthrough, then I think I took Thane and Garrus. So I took some extra firepower, and I had Jacob died, and I think I had somebody else die in between too. It might have no, I'm sorry. I took Garrus and Grunt with me. There wasn't much firepower left to defend, and without the loyalty, I had Morden die on me, and like that was crazy because like the scene is basically like him shot in the head, like up against the wall, just
Jesus.
like shaking. Basically, was still just like shock from getting killed, which is like just horrifying. Miranda's dead body is just getting dragged by the collectors. Like it was brutal, man. You're just like, holy shit. And Tally died too. Then I was just like, oh my god, it was fucking just brutal. Oh, so
This is the Vermeer travesty all over again, man. What
yeah,
the,
no,
you
it
didn't learn
was.
your lesson on. Well, you said you
I
played the
mean, this
second game
not
first, right? So you didn't have the Vermeer experience before you came to this.
no, not at all. And this was just me jumping
Oh
into Mass
man.
Effect for the first time, going to the suicide mission. And I was like, holy shit. Now, Grant, I didn't lose any of my other crew because I did the suicide mission basically right away. I didn't waste any time. And you can lose crew members if you get to that point of no return and start doing side missions and don't hop to the suicide mission. So that's the one positive. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad it saves right before you do that mission because, like I said, man, wake up, night terrors, start crying out people's names. It's a brutal life I live, man. It stays with you. Just like that first playthrough was not the best moment.
God, dude, I can imagine.
Yeah, yeah, you can feel the trauma in just in this episode.
It really is just leaking off of you.
Such is my life, man. My gaming experiences mirror my real life.
Your life is a tragedy.
Just trauma, just
All the
trauma.
world's
Yeah,
a stage.
it's just a giant Greek tragedy.
Oh man. I mean, so you did not have a good experience with that, obviously. What did you do with the
I mean,
Geth?
I'm sorry. No, the first time I played through it, I think I split. Going through playing through the first one and then the second one, I got rid of them. So the game mode I'm most happy was when I played the first, second, and then third all the way through. On that play mode, I got rid of the Geth, which I'm happy about too with the impacts it has in the third. But playing through the first one though too had a new vantage point on how much the Geth are pieces of shit basically, and you kind of see that in the first one. Just jumping into the second one, there's a bit more room for sympathy because you're just getting Tally's POV depending on how you play.
Mhm.
Legion is pretty cool, and you can definitely be like, all right, there's no reason for me to kill these guys. I guess they're sentient beings, but they're still trying to live their lives and coexist. In the first one, it's like the Geth are easily controlled and manipulated. And again, if they're going to side with the Reapers, yes, you want to have everybody coexist and live happily ever after. But again, I'm in the business of killing Reapers, and business is booming.
I mean, but
So,
refresh my memory though. The Geth didn't actually side with the Reapers, right? They're more hijacked by them, hacked by them, however you want to phrase that.
well, that's the heretic part of it is that some of them are kind of choosing to do so. They see the Reapers as basically these godlike beings and that they have the answers and that they should align with them. And I think that's where it comes into. In the first one, yes, they kind of are hijacked a bit more and going, but they're presented then too as these robots that overran organic beings with the Quarians. So it's like they're militant, they're trying to kill you. You don't really get too much sympathy from Geth in the first one. They're viewed as an
Yeah,
enemy.
the very first Mass Effect sets a very bad tone for the Geth, which I think is part of what made Legion an interesting character in the second one, because you're like, wait, now you're telling me one of these fucks is going to be on my squad? Like, really?
He does save you as his first intro. So
Yeah. I mean,
he does start in good graces.
yeah, and from power gaming like meta standpoint, I think he's too strong of a character to ignore with what he can do. I'm trying to remember if I rewrote or if I destroyed them. I want to say I rewrote them. Because like in general, I just believed in things' ability to change, and I also was kind of paranoid in my playthrough of like closing off options down the road, which again, like my naivety when I was playing, right? Because like realistically, you choose to rewrite, you've locked in a certain story line at that point, regardless, right? But I think my logic at the time was kind of like, well, if I destroy them now, they're just gone. if I rewrite them, then like there's still a chance to sort of persuade or change or convert them or like, you know what I mean? Like I keep my options open by rewriting, and so it was maybe a little bit like being too meta for my own good and sort of pussyfooting around that I didn't like commit to something, because I think the decision to rewrite them was not based on necessarily believing in that choice as much as I was too scared to commit to the finality of destroying them, and like they're just gone. Then there's no other option.
Now, then how was the suicide mission for you?
I mean, like I said before, the suicide mission was overall not bad for me. I had my squad. I knew what they were good at and what they did, and like I had done all the loyalty missions and side missions and stuff. And I the mechanic is some sort of like defense value is calculated for the characters you assign, and it's mostly decided by your squad members. So if you take people along who are loyal to you and everything else, and offense oriented, I think was also like a good thing. I forget how it was calculated exactly, but it was mostly based on who you took with you. And by that point in the game, I already knew who my strong characters were basically, and I had done all the loyalty missions anyway. So I'm trying to think who my actual squad was for that mission. Thane or Legion was it Legion? Did I take Legion on my suicide mission? I might have taken Legion. Or was it Thane? It's one of those two.
I took in the boss battle, I take Thane and Legion. That's my go-to from here on out as Infiltrator.
Really?
Yeah, the boss battle.
How could you put aside
I take
Garrus,
I take
man?
Garrus and Tally out of the gates, and then I think the second part or the third part is a bit kind of rotating, because you can kind of use anybody in that with the swarms and whatnot. So it really depends on how you want to go at it. The final battle in the third one, though, is that got crazy. That was one of the most stressful experiences of all time, I think, for me. That was like an hour of playing, I think, straight, maybe more than that, because I didn't know how that shit was going to go down. I didn't know how it was going to end.
I mean, I still remember crawling across the ground, you know, just beaten, destroyed, and trying to get to that beam of light. Just like, it was no bueno, man.
Infiltrator class, and then I had Tally and Garrus with me. And when I first played through that, I didn't know if somebody died during that mission, if they're going to stay dead. And I basically ran a Medigel. So I had to give everybody revives like on the go. So it got crazy. I'm like running out of bullets,
just running
trying to
back and
revive
forth,
people.
like revive.
It was it was brutal, yeah. Because I forget the giant tank things you have to fight, what they're called. I'm throwing Semtex bombs on them as best I can. It got to a point, like I said, I played for at least an hour and a half of like just going back and forth, keeping Garrus and Tally alive. One dies, I'm like headshotting somebody, running down, reviving somebody. It got crazy. I get to the point where I'm just like, I can't keep this up. Like they're both gonna die. I'm gonna die. Like I don't. If I die, does like that's the game? Like it ends. Like I don't know at this point. This is my I'm playing Mass Effect 3 for the first time when it's out. And I forget this. Like Tally, love of my life in Mass Effect. I'm like, oh my god, Tally, getting picked up by a siren, and it's got her by like the head, and they do like the impale through the chest motion.
Yep.
And I have her, I have the black whatchamacallit, the Black Widow lined up, and it's perfect, just headshot dropped it, because if I had the infiltrator shield, it was like buku damage. Kill the siren. I'm like, we're getting out of here. These Adnak is sorry bullshit. Like this shit's too dangerous. You almost died. I can't handle this. My stress is through the roof. I'm thinking I'm having a stroke middle of this fucking battle. Like we got to go. So I ran to the freaking thing, finished the mission, and then the rest is the Mass Effect 3 history kind of thing, whether you love the ending or not. My Shepard lives, so of course I'm happy with the ending.
Did he though? Did he really? I don't know. I mean, so that mission for me was, I didn't try to save everyone, because at that point I think I remember feeling hopeless. And we haven't talked about this yet, but like the games for me created emotions, right? I have those, despite local opinion. But like I remember distinctly, right? Like playing like the first two games and then traveling in the open planets and stuff like that, which now is probably something that would be frustrating to have all that empty space and time and stuff. And even like those long elevator rides were boring, but like at the same time, like for me, they created this sense of vastness in the world. Like there's just this infinite universe with all this space. This galaxy is massive, and like all that empty space and all that time that you spend traveling everywhere actually added to my experience at the time. So I don't know how I feel about it now. And one of the things that might be interesting is to play Legendary Edition with all that stuff sort of like, shall we say, massaged or changed or however they updated it. and then playing the original versions to see does it still hold the same impact? Because at the time, it was good. It made me feel like this is a very big universe. It made me feel very small part of that. And I think the second time that I felt small was here at the ending. It was the second, like it kind of got back to where it started for me. That like after everything I've come through, after everything I've fought and done, and all of these missions and crazy shit, and like here I am, like literally like on the ground crawling as a last hope to this beam of light to potentially fix or solve or something with this. You know what I mean? And it just felt so hopeless, and I felt so small in the context of the universe that Mass Effect had created, and in the context of the story. You know what I mean? Because you really do start off as kind of a nobody, rise to power, get the Spectre status and stuff, revive, and now you're you, but not you, and you've got enhancements and stuff going on. You really do start, like, there is this like power creep in the game where you feel like you're becoming a big player. The people you know are moving up, becoming generals and teachers, and they're getting all these postings and stuff, and diplomats. And then you get to the end, and it's like all of that means nothing. You're just a tiny part of this world and this universe, and you're inconsequential, and you could die at any moment. Like a stray bullet will take you down and put you out. And I still remember feeling very almost hollow when I got to the end.
No, you bring up a good point too at the third, and like we kind of Tarantino with it, talking about the ending before really getting into it. But the third one is such a beautiful game, and it irks me because I think people forget how great of a job they do of creating that wartime. Every decision feels impactful, meaningful. In that first playthrough, you were just stressed, and like it's such a great experience going through because you don't know what the hell is going to happen. It starts off Reapers, boom, hit Earth. The thing you've been telling Council and everybody, they're like, no, 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 and it's like, boom, it's fucking here. You've been trying to get people prepared. It's a bit of a sales pitch here. That's why I will say play the Arrival as the last mission to do on the second one, because that DLC sets up everything so perfectly starting the third. And I feel like you have just a fantastic experience going through that, dealing with Harbinger, and then how the third starts. It's such a perfect DLC segue and was a great teaser at the time and still is. But you hit Earth, you go into Mars, then you find out Cerberus, who basically turned into anti-hero in the second one, they brought you back alive. You have a bit of sympathy them compared to the, terroristic xenophobes they were in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh, now they're back to their old ways and you can't really trust them. So you almost have this two-front war. But then it's like every planet you go to, then you have the depth of the characters you fall in love with Garrus, Tally, even seeing Jack in a new light, and how the wars and impacting them. And it's like the Taurans are supposed to be these great military strategists, and it's like they're pushed against the wall. They don't know what to do. And it's like this is one of the biggest military forces in the universe.
Yeah.
And they're just getting devastated. And just each of the scenes coming into these planets, and you see these homeworlds for the first time. I don't have any words to describe it. It's one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had. And I'm excited for other people to explore it for the first time and experience it. But as a Mass Effect fan going through that first playthrough, I'll never forget it. It was a masterpiece. It really was.
Well, and I'm sorry, I'm taking like a long pause as I sort of collect my thoughts here, because it does feel like we're moving sort of to the close, and as we move towards that, I guess what I'll say is the first game when I played it really got me into this world of Mass Effect, of the Reapers. Saren, I thought, was a phenomenal villain. Like the character, the way he was portrayed and everything else was great.
Great boss battle too.
Yeah, and then the fact that we effectively died at the end of the first one, and then we're resurrected, and it's like I didn't see it coming. I didn't know what to expect, and that also is like, what the fuck? Like I didn't even know in the second game that I was going to be playing the same character or not. At that point, really threw me for a loop. So the first game was a phenomenal introduction to the franchise. One of the best video game villains I think I've ever encountered, in terms of both being just a really good boss battle. First of all, like that was a fun battle to fight, but also in terms of his story and everything else. Mm-hmm. Also sets up this creeping dread then for the rest of it. Like, are you being taken over? Because they expand upon this then kind of in the second one, that like the longer and more slowly that the Reapers are corrupting you, the more like free will you retain. Like you don't go into that like zombie catatonic state, right? Like when they kind of like mind wipe and just like grab you. And so this creates that like lingering doubt, like, are your choices your own? Like, how much are you becoming the next Saren? And then the second game, even you're like literally a whole other person because you've been resurrected now, and you go through and you see the destruction everywhere. I still remember going, like what you said, like you see these planets and how fucked up they are, and like you go in and you do one specific small thing. You can't save everyone, and literally you're watching the rest of the planet get destroyed around you, and like there's nothing you can do about it. There's just, it doesn't matter. There's not an option. It's not like a story choice. It's not like a, do I have a preparedness or fleet assets or anything like that. It's just literally like you have to go in and hope you're able to accomplish the small thing that you came here to accomplish for the bigger picture, because you can't save everyone. It's just impossible, you know? And then the third game brings that all home. And like I said, like by the end of the third game, felt very empty, very hollow, very small, very weak. And I will say, even though I was personally satisfied with my choice of synthesis, that sort of like creeping doubt of, was I corrupted by the Reaper somewhere along the way? The only way you know that you weren't corrupted is what you did and destroying the Reapers. If you chose synthesis or control, you don't know for a fact that that was your own choice that you made or that you weren't persuaded.
All I'm saying is you listen to Crucible, which is this, basically imaginary kid you see in a dream once in a while, and you're going to base an intergalactic decision on, you just sleep deprived and stressed the fuck out and beat up. Like, that's a bad day.
I mean,
that's bad form
but
right
I said before, like my motivation was a lot of Legion, a lot of Edie, a lot of like even Joker's views and Tali's like kind of take on things, and this idea of like,
no, I get it.
There should be some sort of peace between artificial life and organic life, but how do you achieve that peace? It's not by domination. It's not by control. You can't just commit genocide and destroy all of it. It's got to be through some sort of, and synthesis was that option, right? So
no, and honestly, that was a tough decision, all things considered, because I was able to save the Geth and the Quarians on Rannoch.
I wasn't. I fucked that up somehow.
That's another scene too, to where depending on how things play out for you, that can be a gut wrenching, and especially if Tally's your love interest.
That was a straight reload. I fucked that up. I fucked it because I couldn't save both. I fucked it up. And I sided because I was like, oh no, like the Geth Legion, like they're bros, they'll be good. And then when Tali, I was like, no, reload. Just,
No, that's
not happening.
Her death scene is, because there was one playthrough, yeah, I think it was my third or fourth on the third, and like I had Liara as a love interest, and seeing Tali go as a former like love interest in the second one was brutal. But I was able to save him because I had she was still an admiral, and I had my Paragon and Renegade up high enough to make the choice. Legion still was gone, but I was able to save them. But again, then you kind of have to look back and be like, I just saved a Geth, and yes, I thought that was the right decision to do. And some of these decisions that are based too of how you are, like you preparing for military, or you empathetic of the fact of like everybody deserves to coexist and go. And for me, most of my playthrough is on that mindset, but there's some decisions that they counsel everything else. You're like, how much are they standing in the way of that kind of overlapping goal of coexisting and making sure everybody has their piece of the pie, and it's not just, we're just living basically through a charity case to the Reapers or self-serving.
Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately having to destroy all sentient beings. It was like, yes, the Geth are a casualty of war. But to me, it was like, at the end of the day, if that's the only way to kill the Reapers and they're the overlapping threat, that's the only right choice, because that threat's always going to exist. And there's no way I can guarantee they're going to be gone unless I do that. And again, 3 games in the business of killing Reapers, and business is booming.
Yeah, well, you put yourself out of business at the end of the third, obviously, because you just fucked and destroyed them all.
Stock price is pretty good then.
Oh, damn, dude. That's crazy.
But no, the third, and what I do get mad about too with the third, and what I'm sure I'll get shtick in the comments from people too with praising the third one as much as I did. It got so much heat with how it ended, and people felt like decisions we've talked about so much already didn't have weight and the magnitude they thought they would. And you can make a case in certain decisions, yes, sure. But then I kind of counter that too, because the game has to end some way. And I think it was such a one-of-a-kind kind of experience, and we didn't really see anything else like that at that point in time. It's tough then to remove yourself and be like, yeah, it's over. And I think that's a tough thing to come to terms with, And no matter what, no ending and any sort of trilogy, the third movies you can always say is kind of the worst because of that, because it has to end somehow, and it's tough to tie all the knots and bring everything together. But me making the right choice, what I felt was the right choice, I'm happy with it. Why I give
Wait,
the game so much more props though too is the response the fans had and bashing the ending. And BioWare reacted and gave free DLC with the expansion. And yes, the expansion wasn't much, but name me another time a developer had did that at that point in time. That was a first for the industry in video games for a developer to listen to fans and be like, "We hear you. We're trying to make amends." Didn't charge anything for it, just gave it out free. Was it perfect? No. But the fact they listened and did something, I don't think fans give Bioware any enough props for that. That was pretty damn cool and pretty damn big.
I mean, I think we're seeing and so again we're stepping away a little bit from maybe the main topic, but I still think it's important to say fans are in some ways I think ruining the things they enjoy, because there is this weird sense of entitlement. And it came out with the Mass Effect 3 ending and people feeling like things weren't sufficiently consequential, impactful. And I disagree. Like, a lot of the characters had their own side stories and things, and they got resolved. You know what I mean? Like, did it play into perhaps the final battle or the final decision? No, but the choices still had storylines that went places, that resolved in different fashions, that, like, you know what I mean? Like, how much of that was on rails? Again, like, if you look behind the scenes, like, it might have been more on rails than it might have seemed at first, but at a first playthrough, like I said before, you really feel like the characters changed or grew or evolved with their time spent on the Normandy and went on to bigger and better things or different things and became more like authentic or true versions of themselves to a certain extent. And making a game that literally takes every choice you make into account becomes just so mind-bogglingly like complex as to you're almost getting to the point of running a simulation. Like, it's not really a game, it's a simulation now that you're getting to that point of like all these branching decisions and all the branching effects that could be had. And like, maybe to my main point a little bit, right? Like, we've seen it with the Star Wars franchise and the bullying that happened with several of the characters, actually, with their portrayals. That like, they didn't like the Jar Jar Binks voice. They didn't like, what was her name, Tam or whatever, from the new trilogy. They
Last Jedi.
yeah, they didn't like the kid who played Anakin and stuff. Like it's just it's
They're twins.
it's very, very bad the way real people get treated. We see it happening again. I think most recently what's on my mind now is WandaVision has just concluded, just wrapped up at the time of filming here. And a lot of people are getting very upset that their personal fan theories of how this was going to end or what was going to happen and didn't pan out. And again, it's like, it's a sense of entitlement I think is very concerning, because you have to at some point become concerned as a video game developer, as a provider of all the stuff that we love, like what this podcast is about, movies and comics and games. You've got to be scared that this very vocal fan base that you really, really want to like what you're doing are just going to come out and tear it to shreds. Oh, man, I feel for them. I really do. And it's not that criticism is unwarranted and you can't be critical, but there's a big difference between constructive criticism and just, I want what I want. You know what I mean? And that kind of is what I think happened to the ending of Mass Effect 3 is they wanted it to be a certain way. And the developer responded, right? Like you said, like they actually responded to try to play that out more so you could see more of what happened with your decisions.
No, I mean, to your point too. I mean, I think it's even just with us in this podcast, it's that fear of how people will perceive it though too. And I don't think, I mean, we can have a separate episode discussing the toxicity of nerd culture and geekdom, but I do think it's a massive point, especially most prevalent with video games, because there is a sense of conclusion and finality kind of thing, to where it's like, okay, this is, you play the game, that's it, it concludes with, it's a trilogy like Mass Effect. I don't know, it's, people can't have buyer's remorse with it, but it's, I think, still looking back at the third, when people respond the way they did and they still get mad about it, it's kind of like, appreciate it for what it was. That was first playthrough of 3, and if you played through all 3, like, there hasn't been another game franchise that hits the same way, and at some point in time it just has to end. So it's like, you can either appreciate it or you can cry about it being over. And then, but I think turned me off more than anything else is that when BioWare did release that kind of new ending, people still was like, "Oh, it's not good enough." It's like, well, then you design a fucking game. You know what I mean? It's just like, come on, like, what do you want? And like, they responded relatively quick with that. That was like within the same month when all that people started beating the game, people started seeing the ending for themselves. It was like, it wasn't like you had to wait a whole year for that. Or maybe it was within like, 3 months, whatever, but it was pretty quick. It wasn't like, hey, we're going to have this new DLC out. They got to it pretty fast. So it's again like, what do you want at this stage? Like,
Yeah.
you can't get mad. It's kind of like, I love Final Fantasy, but it's the same fans that bash the remake because of the side missions, where it's not a complete. They've remade the original with updated graphics how
Mhm.
many times? Do you want new fans to enjoy something you love, or you want to just sit there as a contrarian and like, just be in your own little box? It's like, come on, man.
Well, and maybe trying to bring this to a little bit of a close overall, I think the real takeaway for me is I understand the emotional attachment, right? Because compared to movies or comics or anything else that we typically talk about, shows and stuff, like you really, really get invested into the character and the choices that you are making. Because yes, it's like like it's a character on a video game, like what, but you personally get involved. We've talked about this many times in this podcast and how immersed you can get into this experience, how connected you can feel with the characters and the story that's being told. And maybe that's why people care so much, because they really do have a connection to what's going on and feel like they're working for a certain ending, and the ending they wanted wasn't an option the programmers or the developers made available to them. And I understand from an emotional level where they're coming from. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily agree with the behavior. Certainly the behavior and like the way people handle these things or express themselves is a separate issue slightly, but being invested, being connected, feeling like all of this stuff matters to such an extent that it stays with you when you turn off the game and walk away from the screen, put down the controller, like this stays with you. And we're talking about this game now, 9 years after the last game released in 2012. The first game released, I'm trying to think.
2000, maybe 7 or 5.
I'll get this real right quick. 2007. Good job. Wow. Good call. So we're talking about this game, 14 years after the franchise started, and still remembering it and the effect it's had on us. Like, it really is an incredible game, incredibly immersive, incredible stories. And I'm so, so, so excited that we're going to get the Legendary Edition, get all this stuff back and then some.
Yeah, no, and to your point too, I mean, that's a pretty recent game franchise. It's not like Legend of Zelda or even Final Fantasy, to where you've had decades and multiple entries to fall in love with the franchise. It's like 3 games, trilogy, boom, 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 boom. And it has this type of impact. And I think that's a thing to cherish and appreciate rather than bash and cry about. And to your point too, yeah, you get emotionally invested, and there is a thing to warrant gamer feelings. But I think we have to take a hard look at ourselves too when that crosses the line of toxic, and doesn't just stop at video games. Like I said, I know there's going to be fans that could listen to our podcast and bash us, and hopefully, we don't get, sort of backlash or anything else. People appreciate the show for what it is. Just 2 guys talking about shit they love. But
I live in Canada. If anyone's looking for me, I live in Canada.
But no, man, I think that's a big part. And I do think we probably should talk about having an episode on that topic down the road. But the more popular video games and comic book culture and nerd culture becomes, the more increasingly this is going to be at the center of social conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, and the role it plays, and maybe not only what role does it play, like culturally, societally, as we talk about these things and they become more prevalent, but also the role that fans play in their development, in their presentation, and how much say should they have over the final product. You know what I mean? Like we talked about last time, Zack Snyder's Justice League cut and stuff like that, in part has a lot to do with the fact that a lot of people felt like he was going to do a better job and they wanted to see his version of it and everything else. Like that's being driven a lot by fans. Deadpool that got released was driven a lot by fan demand for it, got that release. You know what I mean? And we're moving into a very interesting time where fans are being given not just a voice in a lot of these things, but seeing actual consequential decisions being made based on the feedback they're providing and the things that they're saying, and what responsibility comes along with that voice. Now that we have it, how do we use it? And how do we use it with Mass Effect? Do we think we made the right choice in demanding different endings and sort of everything from BioWare? And then how we felt about what we got in the end might be something we can learn from.
On that note, and I got a little heavy, but I think topics we need to talk about. What are you playing? What are you watching? What you got going on right now?
All right. So, game wise, I'm still on the World of Warcraft grind. I am now in the process of finding a guild and figuring out if I'm able to support my relationship while raiding 2 nights a week. That'll be a fun conversation to figure out. I mean, it's a standing commitment, man. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just like piece on raids, but I also have to like have time for, you know.
That's why I stopped playing WoW, man.
Oh,
People wanted me to play.
You were too busy with your girls.
No, well, like just the culture. Like I wanted to play a certain way. I was, a blood elf warrior, and they wanted me just to be a tank. I wanted to dual wield, and my name got me in trouble too. But I think that's a story for another day.
Okay. Watching wise, I just finished my binge. Again, you can probably place when this was recorded. I just finished binging WandaVision, so I look forward to when we have a long discussion about that. Also, the anime, what's it called? Tensei Shitara Slime Daraken. I pronounced that horribly. Don't
You're
hate
just
me.
talking
Weeaboos. It's a dude who got reincarnated as a slime. The first season was very like kind of just like happy, like did it. Second season has a way darker tone to the point that like after the last episode ended, I did go find scans of the manga to read ahead because I got hooked. Like it got to me in a way that I wasn't expecting. Definitely enjoying that right now.
That's usually a good sign of a good anime. I actually am pumped because Devil's a Part-Timer season 2 is supposed to be dropping sometime this year. I mean, that's a complete comedy, just kind of slapstick anime, but I don't know. I love the first season. I thought it was a blast. But now watching wise, I got to finish up WandaVision and then jump back into Final Fantasy VII Remake. The Intergrade trailer kind of got me interested. Not going to pick up a PS5 until the second chapter is released. I'll be straight up. There's plenty of PS4 games to get through, but started to go back through on hard mode and absolutely loving it. It has new appreciation for the game playing through hard and the combat system. And then finally, didn't finish Avengers, but got to the point where I can play multiplayer at again, friends of the show, JT, Jay Kurt, they were harping on me to finally finish that and telling me the game gets a lot better once you get to multiplayer. Well, it is, because my beef with that was I didn't like playing as Miss Marvel. Her fangirl character kind of drives me crazy, but none of the characters felt like their super power selves. Like Hulk, I was just taking damage and doing like 2 combos. And then as it progressed, Black Widow felt the most fluid. And then how the trees are, you have to grind, but like as you level up, you feel more like these superheroes. You actually feel like Iron Man. You can lay waste with beams. You can, Hulk out with Hulk. And it kind of sucks shit to play that way, but you can level up so quickly on multiplayer. It, take the good with the bad kind of thing. But next episode, I think we can dive into, why WoW got me in trouble with the name, because we'll talk a little bit about single player games versus MMOs and kind of the cultural clash between the two.
I mean, I'm obviously active right now in MMOs, and you have been enjoying single player games. Talked about Zelda stuff, and
I'm a self-loathing writer. It's what I do.
Yeah, your idea of a good time is getting away from everything that you do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good discussion. I look forward to it personally, and we're gonna be back to our typical can't agree on anything.
Exactly. Yeah, a little bit of change of pace with this one, but everybody, thanks for listening. You haven't played Mass Effect, get out there, pick up the Legendary Edition. Come May.
Please.
Give us a like, give us a follow. Who Stayed Over My Podcast? And again, guys, thanks for listening. Until next time.